Hey folks, welcome back for yet another build video. This time around, we're using my least favorite gun and my least used gear set. So I'm being a bit hyperbolic in that intro there, but we are using two pieces here that I rarely touch, and it's one that up until now I hadn't thought to pair and combine. So I apologize if I'm late to the party, but I've been having a lot of fun with this and I want to share it with you guys. So those two elements that we're talking about are the Diamondback exotic rifle and the Negotiator's Dilemma gear set. So let's get into this one. We'll start with the specialization. We've gone with the gunner specialization for a couple of different reasons. One is the coupler talent, which every third reload is 50% faster, and with a bolt action rifle like the Diamondback, that is not an insignificant increase for every third reload. And then additionally, the incessant talent gives you 10% armor on kill, and the barrage talent increases your rate of fire by 5% on kill for 5 seconds, which is something that we'll be making a lot of use of. And then last but not least, the emplacement talent gives you 10% weapon handling while you're not moving, something that is quite appreciated when you're running with the Diamondback. That weapon handling gives you obviously better accuracy and faster reload speed, both things that are crucial when operating a bolt action rifle. So we've talked about it enough, let's get into it. Our primary weapon here is going to be the Diamondback exotic rifle. As I mentioned off the top, it is not a weapon I use very often. I'm not a huge fan of the 1886 that it is based on, but the main reason that it's on here is for its talent of agonizing bite. Specifically, that second paragraph there, where if you hit the enemy that is marked by the Diamondback, you are guaranteed critical hits for 5 seconds. That was the third paragraph. Specifically, the third paragraph there, where if after you hit a marked target, you are guaranteed critical hits for 5 seconds, which obviously synergizes very well with the Negotiator's Dilemma Hostile Negotiations talent, in which critical hits mark enemies for 20 seconds. And because of both the backpack and chest talents that we have on here, that marks up to 5 targets. And whenever you critically hit a marked target, all other marked enemies take 100% of the damage that you deal. So while this build definitely isn't for everyone, if you do enjoy being in more of a support role, firing from the back, this one is one I want you to sit down and try out. You may enjoy it. It does work phenomenally well. For our secondary weapon, we've gone with Emmeline's Guard, specifically for the perfect preservation talent, and then additionally the critical hit chance that you have natively on your submachine gun is going to help you out with Negotiator's Dilemma if and when you ever switch off of the Diamondback. And then on top of that, we've got a D50 as our sidearm, specifically because of the Dodge City holster that we have equipped down there. That high total base damage is going to be really great when you use those stacks of Dodge City. For our mask, we have our first piece of Negotiator's Dilemma, and then we have critical hit chance and critical hit damage in the attribute and mod slot respectively, and that's consistent throughout this build. It is worth noting here, if you are very good at targeting the Diamondback's marks, and you want to go that route of just trying to truly lean in to this agonizing bite, hostile negotiations pairing, you could absolutely go just straight critical hit damage in both the attribute and mod slots throughout this build. I wanted to give myself a little bit of a safety net by buffing that critical hit chance with the attribute slots, but I did just want to make note here, this is a bit of a concession to my own strategy. You're not always going to be able to use agonizing bite because you obviously have to hunt for those targets to guarantee the critical hits. So having some critical hit chance on this build is a good way to give yourself a good baseline for when you don't proc agonizing bite. You're still more likely to get a critical hit, mark a target, and then spread the damage you're doing amongst all of your marked enemies. For our backpack, we have our second piece of Negotiator's Dilemma, which gets us that 2-piece bonus of plus 15% critical hit chance. As I was just talking about there with the mask, that critical hit chance is going to be wasted when we are hitting agonizing bite all of the time, but for those occasions where we're not hitting our marked target, it's nice to have that additional critical hit chance to increase our odds of proccing hostile negotiations. And then for the backpack talent here, we have critical measures, which increases the damage that we deal to marked targets from 60 to 100%. So this is fairly crucial. It's obviously an increase of 40% to marked targets. So if you are going to go with this build, I do highly recommend grabbing the backpack. And then for the chest piece, we have our third piece of Negotiator's Dilemma, getting us that 3-piece bonus of 20% critical hit damage. Obviously, that's going to increase the damage that we're doing when we get those critical hits. So it's all rolling together quite nicely. Again, when you're hitting Agonizing Bite, that critical hit damage is going to be used each and every time, making this build hit that much harder. And then additionally, we have the Target Rich Environment talent, which increases our mark limit from 3 to 5. And then obviously, as I also mentioned on the mask, we have critical hit chance and critical hit damage in the attribute and mod slots respectively, for the reasons that we already talked about. For our gloves, we have our fourth and final piece of Negotiator's Dilemma, which is actually what gets us that Hostile Negotiations talent. Critical hits mark enemies for 20 seconds, which is a massive amount of time in game. 20 seconds feels like a lifetime for the most part. The Diamondback is a slower firing weapon, isn't necessarily as debilitating as it is for other talents that are time-based. As you'll see later in the video, the idea here is to build marked targets until you've got everyone marked if possible, and then you're just dealing critical hits by chasing the Agonizing Bite marked target, applying damage to each and every marked target until they're all down. For the holster, we've gone with a little bit of a different spin here. We've gone with the Dodge City Gunslinger's holster, specifically for the Quick Draw talent. That's also where you have the D50 as our sidearm. It has a massive amount of base damage for a pistol, which obviously pairs really well with the Quick Draw stacks, which increase your weapon damage for your sidearm by up to 1,000%, as you can read there. So this is a great weapon to get yourself out of a corner. On top of that, if you have a bunch of marked targets, you can draw your pistol and go for a critical hit chance on one of those. As I've been talking about, that's another reason to increase your critical hit chance as well as your critical hit damage on this build. So for any weapon that isn't the Diamondback, you have a better chance of still proccing the Hostile Negotiations talent. And then last but not least, we have the Fox's Prayer knee pads here. That gives us our plus 10% rifle damage from Overlord Armaments brand set. And then additionally, we have critical hit damage rolled in the attribute slot, and then that normal damage to target out of cover attribute, which is obviously always on Fox's Prayer. And again, both of those are just used as a way to increase Agonizing Bite and Hostile Negotiations damage even higher than it already is. And then for our skills, we've gone with the Reviver Hive and the Reinforcer Chem Launcher. These are a bit more solo focused, so you could certainly go other routes with these. But the Reviver Hive is obviously a great way to give yourself a plan B if things go wrong. And then the Reinforcer Chem Launcher is just a way to stop yourself from going down entirely. As with most builds, skills are obviously something that are more of a preferential pick, so feel free to vary these up. These are just skills that I find myself trending towards whenever I'm running an entirely weapon core build. While this build may not be for everybody, I found it worked incredibly well, and I'm honestly surprised I didn't think of this one earlier. I'm sure someone else has out there, but I was rather delighted to put this one together and take it for a test drive. If you're feeling so inclined, put this one together, take it for a spin, and let me know what you think. Do you like it as much as I do? Do you absolutely hate it? I know the Diamondback in particular is rather polarizing, so this build is going to be an interesting one, and I am curious to see what you guys are going to say in the comments of this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Like it if you like this video, or if you just like weird stuff. Please subscribe if you want to see more weird stuff like this, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.
Detecting additional hostile contacts.
What did you do?
Assistance needed.
Beat them.
We do what we have. They got me good. Make it nice, son. I'll get it working again.
Sending out our seat. Crap! Crap! Crap!
Detecting additional hostile contact.